As you can see the title, um, so it's 4th of July. Happy 4th. You seen what happened in the suburbs of Chicago, the shooting that left 6 people dead, and the suspect is a 20 or 25 years old white man. And that gave me an idea. I just wanted to talk about law and race because if you was to listen to cops and all these right-wing people, black people are the one that hate the cops. People on the left, especially black people, hate the cops. That's the narrative. But like not even 5 days ago, I think it was July 1st, a 49 years old white man in Kentucky shot and killed 3 cops. And if you think about it, most attack on the government, whether the judiciary or law enforcement, is by white men, not black men. From Timothy McVeigh attack in the federal government, the federal building in Oklahoma, killing more than 240 people in the 1990s under Clinton, to a couple of weeks ago, a white supremacist killing a former federal judge, a retired federal judge in Wisconsin, to 2 years ago, another white supremacist attacking a federal judge in New Jersey, killing her son and injuring her husband. There's a pattern of this white supremacists, people on the right, whether libertarian or just white supremacists, going against the government, especially the federal government, sometimes local, but federal government, federal cops, the FBI, or federal judges. But if you were to listen to all those people with law enforcement background, you know, the cops are hate. The hate for the cops and the judiciary comes from the left, especially the minorities, especially African Americans. But the data doesn't bear that out. We see not even 2 years ago, and this militia people wanted to kidnap the governor of Michigan. And the same group went and killed a federal judge in Wisconsin. Or you remember a few years ago, the guys in Nevada and Oregon having a standout with the federal government for weeks. They didn't want to give up their guns. Who can you imagine a group of black men holding on their guns, taking a compound and standing there for weeks on a standout with the federal government, and the federal government having all that restraint? That's what I'm saying. When you see all this propaganda about black people not respecting the law, not respecting law enforcement, or people in the urban areas being against cops, yeah, people in the urban areas, historically, they don't trust the cops and they have their reasons for that. But the most dangerous people for cops and for our institutions are not black people, are not people in the urban areas. It's all these militias, all these white supremacists. Just imagine for a second all these mass shootings in schools or this parade in Chicago or things like that. I remember when the black guy, or he was a mulatto guy in Wisconsin, when he mauled all those people doing a parade in Wisconsin. That was an all white wing media. So just imagine if all these tragedies, all these mass shootings were done by black people. Just imagine the narrative for a second. Or this guy that just killed the cops in Kentucky. If he was a black guy, how would that been spin on media, especially the right wing media? So you got to be very careful with the media. The media just want to create this narrative that black people hate law enforcement, but actually, if you look at violence against law enforcement, whether the judiciary or the cops, it's much more complicated. You don't have a black group just determined to go after all law enforcement, but you got groups of white men, determined to go after law enforcement, killing federal judges in New Jersey, in Wisconsin, trying to kidnap a governor, you know go on against federal law enforcement. So, law, black people, add the list of the worry of the U.S. institutions, whether local, government, or federal. The most scary people for our institutions are these groups of militias, mainly or overwhelmingly white men. They're the most dangerous people for the government, for the cops, for judges. I've never seen black men went and kidnap a federal judge or attack a federal judge in his or her house, like in New Jersey. You know, you can make it up, but like that, but it's not talk about on the that way. I remember, like a few years ago when the I think it was 2016, those two shootings. One African American man shot cops in New York, and then the other one did it. It was in Baton Rouge. No, it was three shootings actually, and then one happened in Dallas. You know, I remember the spin around that. They were talking about the black extremist identity groups. Da, 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 da. I'm like, man, if you take the whole history of the United States and all the you put together all the number of federal servants or civil government servants that black people have killed, I think Timothy McVeigh may have killed half or more than all the black people combined that have killed federal agents. So where, where all this is coming from? Black people hating the cops or hating the institutions. The data doesn't bear that out. The data doesn't bear that out. And I see all this violence in our schools, our cities, and I can't help but to imagine if this school shooting were being done by, let's say, Arabs, and Arab American were doing these shootings in American schools, killing all American kids of all races. But like most of the school shootings are happening in, let's say, white areas, even though Uvalde is mainly was mainly Latino. But let's say all these shootings in the schools were being done by minorities, let's say Arabs, just for argument's sake. I think we would be talking about invading other countries. But hey, if it's us, white, especially a white man doing it, oh, he's sick. He's just sick. He cannot be a terrorist. He cannot be a domestic terrorist. He's obviously sick. But if he was a black man or let's say an Arab, then we're gonna have to go beyond beyond him, being sick. We will have to examine, beyond all that. So law enforcement, judiciary, wake up. Black people are not your enemies. Black people have a mistrust of the government, of authority, of the cops, and they have all the reasons to have the mistrust of the government because black people never had the government in their corner in the history of this country. But like white men in this country have no reason to be so hell bent on destroying the government. So if you want to look at your enemies, look on the other, on the other side. All this militia, all these people kidnapping federal judges, trying to kidnap governor, killing cops in Kentucky. Those people are your enemies, not black people. Black people just want to be treated fairly, fairly. We don't want to be stopped and faced for nothing without cause. We don't want to be stopped on the traffic on the highway without cause. We just want to be treated like all other citizens, like just like white citizens. So black people don't are not ideologically lean in destroying the government. We don't want to destroy the government. That's not what we want.